That's not Eric Martin's, but you're watching the Fantasy Golf Pod. You can follow us, as always, on Twitter at Fantasy Golf Pod. Today, it's Sunday, March 29th. We're still sportsless in the midst of coronavirus, but it's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Cheers to that. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get right to the guest today. I got a freaking millionaire from someone who's won $1 million playing DraftKings PGA golf. Drew Mathews, Red Kachik, the Fantasy Golf Pod founder himself. What up, dude? How you doing?
Doing good, man. I got something for you too. Let's do this together.
Well,
cheers.
Not quite 5 o'clock. It's only 3:30 here. You're in Florida though, so it's closer.
It's closer.
5 o'clock to you. Yeah,
and it's a weekend. I mean, you technically start at 10 in Florida.
Well, and it's coronavirus, so you basically like 4 o'clock's the new 5 o'clock, right?
You lose track of time.
Are you going to the beach? Are you one of those Floridians?
No, I don't even like going to the beach in the summer, man. I'm pale. I get burned.
What's wrong with those people?
I have no idea. It's kind of like one of those things where when you can't have it, you really want it. So it's like, oh, you can't go to the beach? I want to go to the beach. Man, I hear people going to the beach all the time now. It's like, you never go to the beach. You go like once a year.
And then, now you're interested. Honey, let's get the flip-flops and let's head down to the beach, grab the beach towel. Like, what's going through your mind? I've
heard the same thing. People walking around lakes around here. It's like, you guys never go walk around lakes? Like, everyone's doing it, though. That's the place to go. But not right now. Like, you shouldn't be. Let's like hang out at home, guys. Like all the times you want to hang out at home, watch Netflix, you can do it. You're told to do it.
Yeah. Are you watching The Tiger King yet?
I did. Finished it today. Yeah.
Okay, I'm halfway through, so don't spoiler alert me, but that's entertaining.
Yeah, I flip-flopped on who I really liked and who I didn't like. So I'm
not sure either. I can't decide.
I'm not sure who the right person to side with actually is. So politically.
Anyway. Yeah. Listen. I know. You probably talked about it a million times. You've won $1 million, dude. You got to talk about it. You got to brag about it. This is amazing. How did you do that? I mean, do you still have any money left? It's been a couple years.
The last couple of weeks have been rough, actually. So we're hanging on by a thread. There's still some left. It was fun, man. Obviously, the Masters makes it special, and wedding weekend, all that stuff. So
now, wait, stop. It was your wedding. Why did you schedule your wedding on the week of the Masters, Drew?
I didn't. You know how it is.
You're married, happy life.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm married.
That's not how it goes. So, did you do any planning? Like, I didn't do any planning. It was mostly agreeing.
No, barely. My wife was in the wedding planning business, so I didn't have much choice about anything.
Yeah.
Now, I know, I've heard about it, I've seen it, but maybe someone doesn't know. I'm sure you've perfected your 30-second elevator speech of what happened to you, how you won $1 million, and what. Now, you're in Florida, so is it taxed less? Are you happy that that's the case, or were you? I mean, how's it going? Yeah. Florida's no state tax, so that was good. Still get federally taxed out to you know what. But now you hear about these guys in Canada winning the Millie Maker and pay no tax, and it's like, oh, wow, you do the math on that, $350K extra. Like, oh, that's nice. But, I mean, you can't complain. You can't complain. I'm not going to sit here and complain about losing 35% on taxes of $1 million. Yeah, right. Still $700. But,
yeah.
So, I remember you didn't even look or sweat with this. You were just like, whatever, I'll write it out. I might win, I might not. And then all of a sudden you had a green 1,000,100.
Yeah, I actually didn't even see that. It was that's one thing I wish I actually would have saw. I actually waited until they sent you the notification that says you have won, X amount of dollars, and you've been credited with this amount. So that was the first time I actually saw the number, and I was like, man, that's just bizarre.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I didn't watch any of it. I didn't get to see any of it. We were driving 12 hours or something like that from Nashville, Tennessee, and I didn't watch any of it. Didn't follow it on my phone. And then when I kind of had a feeling something was going on, though, it's like, you become more like, oh, whatever I was doing before was working. Let's not jinx it. So
like a little perfect game by a pitcher. You're not supposed to talk to him or
exactly. Yeah. So I just kind of kept on doing my thing.
Okay. And did you submit like this lineup into a bunch of contests? Did you only play the Millie Maker that week? How many lineups did you even have total?
Yeah, I did 20 lineups, and that's all I had. And I think that's all I entered that week was, and there were tickets I won from like NBA and some other PGA contests. So I think honestly, I wouldn't have played maybe like 2 lineups just for fun that week. It was just so busy traveling up there. But obviously with tickets, you're forced to use them. So I did them all 20 on Tuesday night while we were in a hotel in Georgia somewhere, and then just let it ride. So yeah, it was, obviously timing wise, it was fun. Like you have to stop at a hotel, make time to do these lineups on their wedding week and all this stuff. But yeah, it was, obviously try to put in as much time from Sunday through Tuesday, and you get pricing early. But once I got them in on Tuesday, man, I completely forgot about the Masters.
Well, then were you even playing ownership when you had Patrick Reed? You had the perfect lineup. I had Rick Run Good on Rick Game, and he actually had the same lineup as you, or he also had a different perfect lineup, and he didn't enter it into the Millie Maker contest, or he would have split it with you or something like that. So how did you come across Patrick Reed's name? This was 2018. He won it all, and he wasn't even liked. He's never liked, but he wasn't liked a lot that week.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. There's a couple guys that stood out to me. And Russell Henley was the main one that no one played, and he was playing good coming in. I think Reed was the same way, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had like 3 top 10s in his last 4 events. So like a guy that was 6,800 or is super cheap. He was a guy that you could kind of fill in with some momentum coming in to the Masters. So some different angles there. I was heavy on Sergio, and he missed the cut. So the whole pool, the player pool, didn't do so hot. But luckily we had, enough with Bubba Watson, Ricky Fowler, Spieth, and obviously Patrick Reed winning helps out quite a bit.
And now, had you just started the fantasy golf bag prior to this win, right?
Yeah. It was
weeks into it.
It was March, I think. March of 2018 we started, me and a buddy who played on the web.com a little bit. And so this was 3 weeks later, I think, something like that. Like we started the Valspar week. Yeah, it was crazy.
Why didn't you? So you should have wrapped it up. You said well, we're done. We retire. Like we can't get any better.
It was almost like if things didn't go well enough in like the first 2 months, like, all right, guys, we gave it a shot. We'll hang up the podcast, we'll hang up the site, everything, and then you win. It's like, well, now we really got to invest in this stuff, man. So yeah, it was fun.
So then, have you poured some of your own personal money from the win into the fantasy golf bag? Are you investing back in, sort of?
Yeah.
Of course,
plenty,
right?
Plenty, yeah.
And then what's new? I've seen you have an app now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I think we're all in the same boat. Like you kind of want to build lineups wherever you're at. And so much stuff with golf is on the desktop. Like you got to pull up something and you got to use the desktop version to see all the cells and everything. And I was always like sitting in bed at night or go out somewhere. And it's like, God, I want to build a lineup, but I don't want to build like a half-ass lineup. So now I figured build an app, and then you can actually see the stuff on your phone. You could be, going to sleep and be on your phone, researching stats, and then throw in a lineup and you're set. So it was kind of like a personal project for me, but I figured it provided a good bit of value for other people if they're out and about with families and stuff like that. You can't really take too much time with a family to say like, yeah, I'm going to go in the office and do some golf research on a Friday night.
Well, yeah. Now, are you a family man now? You're married, clearly. That relationship's lasted a couple of years at least.
Yeah, the Millie must have helped. So yeah, definitely a family man. It's really tough. Like she's very lenient on letting me do all the stuff with golf. Obviously, DFS, playing it. I play a lot of other sports. So she's more than lenient on letting me take my time that I want to do this stuff. And then I play golf. So like that's always a fine line of like, am I asking for too much today? Like, got to do DFS and go play golf.
Yeah, I have 2 kids, and it's like I'm treading lightly, just coming out to the garage to do this interview. And that's why I'm like, honey, I gotta have my beer. It's part of the
yeah. No, my thing is, so we have a daughter. My thing is when she gets old enough to go to the golf course, I could say, hey, I'm taking her to the golf course. It's gonna be fun for her. And then meanwhile, I'm over there. I can hit some balls.
Mm-hmm.
So,
nice.
Win-win.
Okay. So you are a golfer. You started off as a golfer. Have you always done DFS, or did you do something else prior to doing the fantasy golf bag?
Yeah, so I played golf. I played golf in college. I turned pro in 2012, and then I had back-to-back shoulder surgery. So I played in Q School 12 and 13, and then I hung it up in 14. And that's really when I got into DFS, just because like big picture, I just wanted to fill my time with something, and DFS was fun. I could follow NBA. There was some math behind it. The way I got into it was NBA, like late night slates. Like you get home from work and there was like a 2-game slate at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or something. And I was like, how hard it can be. Like you're picking against 20 people or 20 players that you can really pick from. Like you should be able to get the right lineup from that. So that's kind of how it began. And then from there, you realize these guys are actually good and they must do something different. And that evolved into football, involved into baseball, golf, etc. So I didn't play golf DFS first. You think like playing golf, you'd be interested in that. That was probably the last sport I picked up, to be honest.
Okay. So you play a lot of NBA,
Not right now.
Today.
Right now. Well, League of Legends is all we got right now.
Yeah, you could, I guess. Counter-Strike.
No.
No, but you also, on your app and your website, you have Euro stuff. So that's kind of nice. Not every website that provides PGA stats and DK stuff has Euro information. Tell us about that. Is that
Yeah, that's a huge shout out to Skylar of Golf Gurus, and then Axis of Fantasy Jesus. You've probably, I think you've had him, or you've talked to him before, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but they've done a ton with Euro.
And Axis has, I was going to mention, a pod out with his process as well that is on your pod platform or whatever it's called. So look up Axis's process. That's cool to listen to.
Yeah, so Euro is cool, and it's like a niche sport, right? And the contests don't get big enough, but those guys, like, of all the things, PGA DFS has gotten pretty mainstream where everyone's kind of looking at the same stuff. Euro is a little bit off the cuff where you got guys you never heard of. You got guys that are so inconsistent, it's ridiculous. How can they finish top 10 3 weeks in a row and then somehow shoot 90? But it's a lot of fun, and it just provides a little bit more value for us to hit another segment of golf DFS.
Totally. Okay. Has your process changed? Have you upped your stakes since you have the bankroll to do so, or since winning $1 million? What has changed? Anything, or are you still the same kind of way that you play?
I try to stay the same. The first year after I won it, my thing was I wanted to win another one that year. So basically, you're going to get taxed, ridiculous amount. So I figured might as well reinvest in the Millie Makers the rest of the year. So I maxed those that year. I don't think I had any success. I had a Louis Oosthuizen withdrawal at the PGA, so that was a fun finish to the year. But yeah, mostly stay the same. Up the bankroll a little bit. But honestly, a lot of the stuff that you do successfully, you try to maintain it. Like people that, even if they won, $20,000 or $50,000 and they all of a sudden start max entering all these contests, the max entering process is a lot different than just building, some single entries or just a handful of lineups. So I mostly try to stay with that. It depends on the slates. I'll change up MME style versus 3 max, et cetera.
So are you generating lineups? Your website has the tools to allow you to do that, right?
It does, yeah. So we've been working on a stat model that incorporates both the PGA and the Euro stats, because a lot of guys come over for like the WGCs or the majors, and it's nice to actually compare them. So yeah, we try to build all that on the website for people to do.
Are you using a player pool? Do you do that process? Do you cut down to a certain number, or do you just kind of build uniquely? What's your overall strategy?
I definitely cut down. It gets usually, to be honest, I usually start from the bottom. Like I think so many people spend time trying to cut the fat from like the 10K range or the 9K range. And personally, I mean, we talk about it on the podcast every week, but you start in the 10K range and you're like, all these guys are good. Like there's really nothing bad. You could say bad course fit for somebody, but honestly, they're all going to play well probably at that event. The problem
and DraftKings knows the pricing, or they know it's the course fit for Bubba, and they put them ahead of everybody else. So you're not getting an advantage in the 10K and 8K.
Right. So I spend the majority of my time on like the value guys, because those are the ones that I think when people just run like a blanket model that, looks at the last 24 rounds or whatever, you're going to miss out a lot of these lower priced guys that maybe have an uptick last week. And those are really the values that I look for, because they're priced down there for a reason. They don't have good long-term stats. They'll never have good long-term stats, most likely. So most of my research goes to the value guys, because those are the ones that usually, will pop up and finish top 10, like a Russell Henley or Patrick Reed, like at the Masters. But that's really where my process goes. It's a kind of a bottoms-up approach. The top guys, man, I can mix and match if I was max entering. I'm fine wide open with them.
Are you playing the guys that won you $1 million more than you would have normally? Or do you have brand plays? Are you on Russell Henley now forever or whatever?
No, I will play Charlie Hoffman at the Masters. And I don't think it's just because he won me $1 million. But Spieth was in that lineup. And I'm not sure the last time I played Spieth. So no, I have no loyalty to the guys that won me any money.
Right on. And then now you're a stat guy, kind of. Stats, and you do stats. Same with Rick Run Good. We kind of talked to him about what his favorite stat is. Do you have a favorite stat, or one that you kind of rely on as your go-to? Or if you're talking to your dad's friends and you're like, oh, I'm into stats, and they're like, okay, tell me, what's the one you give them?
I mean, if you're looking at it from a DFS aspect, it would always be stroke gain approach from a overall aspect. I think people get into a trap of looking at that more so than tee to green. Like some things I've found lately, they tend to counteract. Like a guy that loses strokes off the tee will gain an absurd amount of strokes approach. So like if you're just looking at approach, all of a sudden Brian Gay shows up because he's been hitting his 200-yard shots close. And I think using an overall, look at things is a good way to go. But if I were to ever talk to anyone, it's always strokes gained approach. Like if they're not hitting it close, they're not going to have a lot of opportunities. So that's usually my number one.
And everybody knows the approaches will stick around for a couple of weeks. It's the putter that comes back and goes,
oh yeah.
That's what people have been saying. And we tweet these stats that are narratives that are kind of noisy and that really don't predict much. What's your go-to like predictive stat? Is there a predictive stat?
There's not really a predictive stat from a week-to-week basis, just because so much can change. I mean, looking at a high-level stuff, it's the best way to do it. Like I said, look the shorter-term stats for like the cheap guys is more predictive for them. The longer-term stats for the more expensive guys is more predictive for them. So an example of that is like Rory shoots 77 one round. People don't play him in Showdown the next day. Like, dude, you probably want to play Rory after 77. Now the guy that, shot 68, that's a no-name last Sunday to finish the tournament, people are less likely to go play him. They think, oh, it's just a fluke. No, I'd rather play him like the next week. He's probably got some kind of momentum and keep that going. He's $6,900. So
as a golfer yourself, you go do something on a Sunday. A week later, you're not bad all of a sudden, right? You're still decent.
Like, for sure.
Like it can last a while.
Yeah, and a lot of it is confidence. Like these guys are good. I mean, like the guys that we make fun of because they're so cheap, like they're still really good players. They're just not at the level of a Rory, a Tiger, Jason Day, etc. But yeah, if they get it, like I love looking at guys. We talk about course history kind of off and on, but you look at guys that have played a golf course and have shot 65 before on that course. Like that's good course history in my opinion. I don't care if he finished T40th. Like show me a guy that shot 65 or 64 at one event on that course. That's a good sign for him the next week or the next year or the next year.
You've won $1 million. You've got a podcast. You got a website. Is there one thing that you give as like the go-to advice? Is it to play the lineup ownership game? Is it to, fade the top price guy, say sometimes? Is there a rule of thumb that you kind of live by or not?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, every slate's a little bit different. I think people overthink ownership to a degree where they see a chalky guy. And like, granted, a lot of the chalk goes to the higher price guys. Like in a way, you could use chalk to determine who's a good play in some aspects. We'll just use that as like a very, generic phrase. But yeah, you go down the list. If you're trying to hand build a lineup and you just pick the chalk, then yeah, that's no good. But usually if you have a good player pool, you're going to have pieces of guys that, no one's going to be on. You have pieces of, the chalkier, higher price guys. So the way I always look at it is like, what's their likelihood of exceeding their price tag? And I think I've heard Jonathan Bales say this before for like NBA or baseball, but like if, Rory McIlroy is going to be 30% owned at, 10.9K, he's probably got a 30% or higher likelihood of passing that value. If you got a 7K guy that sucks and he's going to be 30%, probably not, man. Like that's where I draw the line. So that's how I view ownership is like, what's their likelihood to surpass that? If he's 50%, he's probably doesn't have a 50% chance to surpass the value. And golf's volatile, like not to sell that short. It's definitely volatile.
Yeah. I mean, I basically said that on every single one of these interviews. It's volatile. So don't think that this guy's going to be perfect every time because he's more likely to screw you. I
like to stick with, your own reasons for playing someone. Like just fading someone because they're going to be chalk. It's hard for me to live with that. Like maybe that's the right opportunity in certain tournaments. But if you're going to, at the end of the week, and like, I faded him because he's going to be chalky. Okay, well, that was a bad mistake on your part, man. Like live with your decisions. Figure out the best way to do that. Right.
And I've talked to Ben Raza about this. This is kind of the Adam Levitan NFL sentiment, is that you're overthinking, you're leveling yourself, and to not play that running back that's $4,600 just because he's 70% on. Well,
Yeah.
You're saving there, and he's going to score a lot like that. You got to just do it sometimes.
That's the good example. Like if he's 70% owned, he probably has a 90% chance of exceeding his price tag if he was, min priced at 3,500 or something. So like those are the examples I would use for ownership where, yeah, he's 70% owned. That's not chalk at his price and workload coming up.
Right, and that's what Levitan's basically like. He should have been 100. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Exactly. That's exactly the right scenario.
You are in Florida, but did you attend the DFS Open? I can't remember. Were you on that list?
I didn't. No, I had surgery on my back, a minor surgery, so I wasn't able to attend.
Oh, well, we didn't go either. But are you going to go? Do you like it? Do you think that's a fun idea?
I do. Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know the best ways to improve or anything like that. But yeah, it's obviously with scrambles like that, you're limited to so many people because you have so many holes and stuff like that. So, maybe there could be like an organization. We get Pat Mayo involved where you can start having like, areas of the United States people can go and play.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
There's a ton of us from Minnesota.
There you go.
I was talking to Moose about this. I'm like, let's do a DFS Open North. Why not?
Yeah. And some people could go to all of them, but then at least you get people that like, they don't have the resources to fly or, leave for 4 days, 3 days, whatever. But you get people involved and connect and that would be fun, I think, for the industry.
What are you going to do now with the fantasy golf bag? Now there's no golf. Are you busy? What are you guys doing? Are you making shit up like me with these interviews?
We pretty much taken a back seat. Axis did his podcast. He's been more on top of that stuff. I've been playing and just been playing League of Legends and the esports stuff like that, which has been good for us. We had 3 10K winners last night. So that was fun. We won 10K on FanDuel and then 20K on DraftKings. So
is there advice on your site or are you just doing it for fun?
We have a Slack that people like when we had members, they joined Slack and we've paused all the subscriptions, but we left people in Slack for playing esports. And then when the contest started going bigger and bigger, I'm like, shit, man, I better probably look into this. Yeah, so it's been good. But yeah, as far as like fantasy golf bag, we've been working on some projects on the side, but it's been like a wait and see approach. Like I got enough stuff going on. I can't do a ton of podcasts. I appreciate you and you doing these interviews. But personally, it's almost like a nice break to focus on other stuff, get ready for the year, and we'll see what happens.
So when do you think we'll come back? Have you had any speculations? You think they're going to do a fall Masters?
I think they will. Yeah, I do think they'll do a fall Masters. I don't know what their thought process is or what needs to happen for them to like confirm it. But there's so much money involved for the Masters to be held every year. I think they would do everything they can to make sure it plays this year. So, they'll turn it around and play in April next year, assuming things are still good. That's huge. And even like the NCAA football, they're talking about doing like a summer league. They don't need to do a summer league of football, but they want to make the money that they lost on NCAA Final Four or the March Madness. So there's a lot of money involved with some of these sports leagues and organizations. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I saw that they're going to do a test that's going to give you the results in 5 minutes. So that could maybe help jumpstart sports since you could just have everybody take those if they're available.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the region and maybe I was joking with somebody about Euro golf coming back before PGA Tour golf, and I don't see how that could happen. There's so many Euro countries on lockdown. Yeah. But yeah, I think golf would be one of the first sports that could come back because there is more of a distance between players. It's not basketball and you're heaving on people and stuff. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully golf's on the forefront of coming back though.
Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, the little guy, and continue to dominate, continue to do things. And we appreciate you. If you haven't already signed up for Fantasy Golf Bag, clearly go do that. There's enough there that you can get through the whole season and you get enough information and you got enough advice that you're going to be a winning player. You're going to win $1 million.
Absolutely. But don't sign up now. We don't have any content. There's no tournament. So wait until the summer when they come back.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually sign up. Drew Mathews, appreciate you. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.